Yeah, for sure. It's Marty and McGee
from 7 to 10 Eastern
on ESPN Radio and the SEC Network.
The Dodgers-Padres rivalry is one of the hottest in Major League Baseball. It's star-powered and it's intense. This place is going to get really loud. That's what the fans came to see. Give us a West Coast run. The push to the postseason continues on Sunday Night Baseball. Dodgers, Padres, Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN. Presented by Casamigos Tequila.
Yo, check this out from Canty and Carlin.
He's the AI quarterback. If ChatGPT spit out a quarterback, it would be Russell Wilson at this point. With the way he speaks, with the way he handles himself with his teammates. Tell me ChatGPT didn't actually write Broncos Nation, Let's Ride. Like if there was a football exhibit at Epcot, he would be the robotic quarterback there.
Canty and Carlin, weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. Center all night. Conference realignment continues to shake up the college football landscape.
It's truly mind-blowing. There's a lot of reaction throughout college athletics about what's going to happen next.
The Astros and Yankees square off in a rematch of last year's ALCS.
2-1. And that's hit in the air to right and fairly deep. It sends back Connor Falefa at the wall, looking up. See you later!
Anthony Davis signs an extension to remain in L.A.
They have done everything to try to put him in position to be successful. Now it's on AD to deliver.
Plus all the latest storylines from NFL training camps.
I never want to be involved in something where someone gets hurt or severely injured or anything. Poor judgment on my end. Definitely a bad decision.
This is Sports Center all night.
Violations.
Okay.
Sure, we weren't asking for a shot clock violation. I don't think you're going to get it in Super Bowl.
Oh, hits it!
Big shot for more.
Here's Jim Basquill.
And the Big 10 and Big 12 grow, as does Anthony Davis's bank account. Welcome to Sports Center All Night on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Plenty ahead, but we lead it off with the changing landscape in college football.
The Pac-12, as we know it, is dying. It is circling the drain.
From coast to coast, athletic directors, commissioners, and decision makers in college athletics are talking about what they're going to do if indeed the Pac-12 were to dissolve.
I should say college sports, right? The Big 12 is adding Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah's members next year. The latest blow to the Pac-12 came just hours after the Big 10 welcomed Oregon and Washington. Keep in mind, Southern Cal and UCLA already leaving for the Big Ten next year. With Oregon and Washington, that Big Ten has expanded 4 times since 2010 after adding no schools in the previous 21 years, set to become the largest major athletic conference with 18 members. The additions of the Arizona schools in Utah giving the Big 12 16 schools from Florida to Arizona. Heather Dinich with reaction.
It's truly mind-blowing. There's a lot of reaction throughout college athletics about what's going to happen next in terms of the fallout, assuming this all happens the way it's been reported. This morning, there was a sense of optimism heading into the Pac-12 president's meeting where Commissioner George Kliavkoff presented a grant of rights.
Yeah, Oregon and Washington will join the Big Ten beginning in the 24-25 season. Pete Thamel on Oregon squeezing the Big Ten for more money and getting there with Washington.
Oregon played hardball. Both of those schools are only going to get about a half share of what the Big Ten pays out, which is a nebulous figure that I'm going to roughly say is nearly $70 million for the other 16 schools and will be in the 30s in an escalating scale for Oregon and Washington. And there was some thought on the Oregon campus that, quite frankly, they were lowballed, and so they pushed the negotiation to the very end. And in a way, they're sticking around and staying interested in Pac-12 business, sort of intensified and fueled some of those hopes that existed early Friday morning. But once that meeting didn't end with a grant of rights being signed, it never really got off the ground. It was fairly clear that barring some late snag, Oregon and Washington were going to end up in the Big Ten by the end of the day. And the Ducks and the Huskies, two teams who played in the college football playoff in the last decade, are now Big Ten members.
Yeah, USA Today Ducks reporter Zachary Neal on Freddie and Fitzsimmons on money, the motivating factor for this Oregon move.
If Oregon did decide to stay in the Pac-12, it kind of made sense if you take the revenue aside, because who would you rather play? Would you rather play Oregon State, Washington State, Utah, and Cal to get to a Pac-12 championship in the college football playoff? Or would you rather play Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, Iowa? I mean, that's a pretty easy answer, but the old saying, you have to be the best, you've got to beat the best. So I respect that Oregon's taking on this challenge. Obviously, it's much easier to do when you get a nice revenue boost and the security that comes with it, but things are definitely going to be a little bit more challenging for the Ducks going forward to get to the college football playoff.
How about the subject of the Big Ten poaching two more from the Pac-12? Harry Douglas loves the aggression.
The overall and bigger picture, when you're going to have USC and UCLA come in 2024, and now you're formally having this invitation for the Washington Huskies and also Oregon. And when you look at Oregon and the brand that they are with Nike and Phil Knight, you look at the Washington Huskies, and I'll say over the last 10 years, the players that they're putting in the National Football League left and right, it is a no-brainer, in my opinion, when it comes to the Big Ten. I just love the fact that they are proactive in doing so and not sitting back and waiting and getting lost in the shuffle.
Now, regarding the timing, Adam Rittenberg on the Big Ten moving fast, perhaps too fast.
There's a lot of balls in the air, but, certainly the Big Ten is looked at as a safer landing spot for Oregon and Washington. I would share this, though. There are some of those in the higher corners of the Big Ten, schools that certainly pop out a little bit, that are concerned, I've been told, about the idea of adding Oregon and Washington so fast. I've heard words like rushed and reluctant. When speaking to some sources around the league today.
So what about the Pac-12's future? It's done, right? They're down to 4 schools, as well as the future of the ACC, which could be the next Pac-12. Florida State already looking at its options. Might Clemson follow? Heather Dinich on if that Atlantic Coast Conference should be concerned.
I think everybody has reason to worry right now, because there's just so much uncertainty and mistrust. The mistrust is so pervasive. And given the Florida State president's recent comments, which weren't necessarily new, but were certainly strong and assertive and bold and threatening, and saying, hey, if you guys don't find a way to give us more money, we're going to leave. Yes, that all that's uncomfortable for everyone. But there's also a reality to the ACC that should give them some comfort, and that's their grant of rights and their exit fee. I mean, that is a very real legal web that any school that wants to leave has to untangle itself for it.
And that's what FSU faces, by the way. Reese Davis on the Noles' future in that Atlantic Coast Conference.
My perception of it is, if Florida State had some place to go for sure, and it was a financially viable option, and they had it all locked in, they'd be being a whole lot quieter right now. And, maybe they're letting people know that they are open for business, but everybody knows that anyway. So I've been a little perplexed about why they've been so vocal about it, unless they feel like bringing attention to this can force the ACC either to, finding some type of escape hatch, or more likely they can force the ACC, into redistributing the revenue in a way that's more liking to Florida State and some of the other people in that conference who are less than pleased, who aren't being quite so vocal about it.
Yeah, Chris Carlin, by the way, says forget Florida State. Clemson is the crown jewel get from the ACC.
I really feel like we've got a chance for Clemson to be the absolute linchpin for all of this. Think about Clemson for a moment. and what they have done in college football over the last 10 to 12 years, the powerhouse that they have become, how attractive do you think Clemson is to the Big Ten, to the Big 12, and certainly the SEC? If you're Clemson, does going to the SEC really make great sense? You want to be at the top of your league year in and year out. And I'm not saying keep it easy, but what is their best route to that? It is to keep the ACC together.
Yes, good point. Pablo Torre, Tony Kornheiser on PTI, and if this conference expansion is good for college football.
Hi, Pablo. Is conference expansion good or bad for college football?
It feels bad, Tony, and I'll emphasize the word feels here because I get that the economics of this are saying the incentives are towards the super conferences that we've been bracing for quite a while. But it feels bad to me because the thing that distinguishes college football as a product from the NFL, a superior football product, is the geographic tradition, are the idiosyncrasies, are the cultures that brew around locales that seem to be grouped by something other than a desire to make money. For that reason, when you're eroding identity, I just feel like you're creating a more fungible part here that can be interchanged to its detriment with the NFL perhaps at the end of this rainbow.
Yeah, if you want to go back, you can go back to BC as agent zero in this whole thing. Because they're the first team, I think, that moved out of a conference with reasonable geographic boundaries and tightness and decided we're out of here. We're not going to be in the Big East anymore. We're going to go to the ACC. And that led to what I think could be accurately described as chaos. But I am not one of those people who is doing hand-wringing about this. I'm really not. Because, I think the college football product is second only to the NFL in viewership in the country.
You could say that. That's for certain. You're listening to SportsCenter all night on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I'm Jim Basquil. Anthony Davis and the Lakers have agreed to a 3-year, $186 million contract extension. Deal comes at an average value of $62 million per season. That extension becoming the richest annual agreement in league history. It ties him to the franchise through the 28 campaign for a total of $270 million. He had 2 years and $84 million left on his current contract, became eligible to sign the 3-year extension on Friday, and they quickly got it done. Woj on what this means for LBJ.
And what this means for LeBron James is, as he navigates his future, and perhaps he'll do, as if he returns again another Laker deal, perhaps it's a shorter contract, but he knows he has Anthony Davis locked in. This is what Anthony Davis and LeBron James and the Lakers imagined when they made that 2019 trade, gave up a great deal for Davis, is that eventually this would be Anthony Davis's team. And now certainly LeBron James continues to play at an extremely high level, an all NBA level. And there's no reason to think he's going to slow down. But this was always the plan for the Lakers, that the mantle would be passed to Davis. He is certainly their cornerstone. He is in his prime at 30 years old, but it gives certainly LeBron James some comfort knowing that Davis is locked up and he is under contract as they continue to try to win their second title together in LA.
Yeah, with those considerations in mind, Ramona Shelburne loves the move.
There's this uncertainty that hangs over the Lakers' future with regard to LeBron James because of this might be his last year there. He has left the door open on whether he wants to retire, whether he wants to go play someplace else where one of his sons is playing. That whole situation has got obviously has a different tenor to it now with what's happened with Bronny James. But Anthony Davis is going to be there. And that is a huge deal for the Los Angeles Lakers to know that you have a superstar signed up for the next 5 years.
Yeah, he's being paid, that's for certain. Kendrick Perkins says he also needs to pay up on the court.
The Lakers has done right by Anthony Davis. He has signed 2 deals since he's been in a Laker uniform. They have done everything to try to put him in position to be successful. Now it's on AD to deliver in great fashion. I talked about how he's a top 5 talent. Now he needs to go out there and prove it and be available. And again, put his name back in the conversation with Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, and Jokic as one of the best bigs in the game and be reliable.
Coming up, it's the baseball bunch. The Stros in the Bronx on the eve of Verlander's return. The Braves, they continue to bash. That's on deck. This is SportsCenter All Night on ESPN Radio.
Hey, it's Amber Wilson. Coming up on Monday, we continue our NFL two-a-days with the Jags. I'll tell you just how close Trevor Lawrence is to becoming a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. That and more beginning at 6 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and on ESPNU.
This is SportsCenter All Night on ESPN Radio.
Can you dig it? With a Bobcat compact excavator, you can. Up to $6,000 in rebates on select models and 0% financing for 36 months.
Check us out at KC Bobcat. To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Are you always on the go but don't want to miss your favorite music? Then the TuneIn app is the perfect solution for you. Now you can take all your favorite audio with you, wherever you go. Download the app and never miss a beat with TuneIn.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Finding the perfect country soundtrack is easy with TuneIn's Country Road Station. Fill your day with the best music from country pop icons, whether you're cruising your own back roads or stuck inside at work, and everywhere in between, with country favorites from legends like Carrie Underwood or Florida Georgia Line, or some new hits from today's emerging country icons. Country Roads plays the country music you love. Just search Country Roads on TuneIn to listen.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is Buster Olney of the Baseball Tonight podcast, reminding you of TuneIn's continued baseball season coverage.
Now swing. Line drive, base hit, right center field.
As the pennant race heats up, TuneIn is here to take you out to the ballgame with live play-by-play of every major league game.
Back, looking up, it's gone!
All the way through the World Series. Plus, be sure to listen to my podcast between games as I break down the latest from around the league. Search MLB to get in the game.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
2024 is coming, and the race for the White House is already underway. Get the latest news from the team you trust, such as CNN.
We are not in that ballpark. 219th, 216th, leading right now.
Fox News Radio.
You could take the 5 worst presidents. They would not have done the damage.
MSNBC.
12 million new jobs. More jobs in 2 years than any president created in a 4-year term.
And more, with the facts you won't hear anywhere else. Hear the news you trust on TuneIn.
Did you know you can use AirPlay and Chromecast to listen on connected devices?
to SportsCenter all night on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
Here's Jim Basquill.
Yeah, we're back on SportsCenter all night with Houston giving the Yankees a problem.
2-2 to Alvarez. And Jordan hits it in the air to center it deep. It sends back Bader at the wall. See you later! Into the Astros bullpen. Jordan Alvarez goes deep, and the Astros go up 5-1. Number 20 for Jordan.
That's KBME 790 AM. It's Y and Y for Houston. Jordan and Yainer, Alvarez, and Diaz. He had a 3-run home run as well in the first. Astros beat the Yankees 7-3. The rookie Hunter Brown winning consecutive starts for the first time since April as he went 6 strong. Kyle Tucker, a 2-out, 2-run double in the 6th, stole a pair of bases as well. Luis Severino lasting just 4 innings, gave up 5 runs. His skipper, Aaron Boone.
Look, he's human. It's difficult. It's no fun when you're going through that and you're scuffling, especially when you've, been as good a pitcher as he's been. He's very mature though. And, I think, deals with it as well as one would deal with it. You've got to have perspective and priorities and things like that. So he's working really hard to try and unlock himself and to get, to where we know he can get. So that's never easy, but with that said, I think he handles it probably better than most.
Yeah, the Astros 10-3 against the Yankees since the start of last season.
The Mets have a deal in place to trade Verlander to the Astros.
The Astros clearly know what they're getting in Justin Verlander. He has been their ace before, and he's going to be their ace again for another run.
Yeah, I'm glad we got James back.
Justin Verlander making his first start in his return to the Astros. It comes today at Yankee Stadium. Jesse Rogers on SportsCenter.
I was just sitting with Astros GM Dana Brown, and I still think he's finishing the red wine that he opened up, the Cab Red that he opened the day of the trade. He's so excited to give this team a chance to repeat as champions. That was so important to him. They fought so hard last year to win it without him. Then he joins the team. Now they have Verlander in the fold. Justin told me it's oddly comfortable to put this uniform on again. A little bit surreal, but you talk about an easy transition. You just said it. He was just on this team months ago. He doesn't have to fly anywhere to make his second debut with the Astros, which will come tomorrow. And here's a bonus. He gets to go to the White House with the team on Monday. He didn't think he'd get a chance to do that. So it should be an interesting day at Yankee Stadium for him, but I don't see much of a transition. I think they expect him to be really, really good.
And the Astros stay game and a half back, though, of those Rangers.
Garcia has extended his hitting streak to 9 games. Exactly 1 hit in each of the 9. Here he lifts one high into the air, deep left center. Garcia going back, looking up. It is gone into the second deck. Second home run tonight for Adolis Garcia. He gives the Rangers a 4-2 lead.
That's 105.3 The Fan. Adolis Garcia, 2 long balls. Corey Seager also went out, and the newly acquired lefty Jordan Montgomery worked into the 7th. Rangers passed the Marlins 6-2 again to stay a game and a half up.
The 1-1. McCann, hard hit ball past first base hit. This one out into right field. Marte collects the throw home. Here comes the runner, and he's safe. Colton Cowser gets in underneath the tag, and the Orioles make it 10.
That's WBAL. How about that? The former Met James McCann, 3 hits, 5 RBIs against New York as they rout the Mets 10-3. And Buck Showalter's return to Camden Yards. He managed the O's from 2010 to 2018, led him to 3 postseason appearances. The AL leaders won for the 6th time in 8 games to stay 2 ahead of this team, Tampa.
Here's a swing and a long high drive into deep left center field, and that one is out of here even at the old wall. The original dimensions couldn't have kept that in as Jose Siri circles the bases, and the Rays have a 4-0 lead early in Detroit. What a blast.
That's 620 WDAE. He drove in 3. Tampa routs Detroit 8-0. Harold Ramirez, 3 hits, scored twice as they won for the 4th time in 5 games.
And Guerrero, he hits one high and deep. Out to left center field. How about another one for Toronto? This one belongs to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. The second home run of the first inning for the Blue Jays. Number 18 on the season for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. 2-0 Toronto, inning number 1.
And that's Sportsnet 590 The Fan. They tied a season high with 5 home runs to beat the Red Sox 7-3. Whit Merrifield went out in the game's first pitch. Angels will wait a few days before deciding when they'll start Shohei Ohtani on the mound once again. He went 4 innings Thursday and left because of cramping in his pitching hand and fingers. On the field, though, his team having a rough go of it.
0 for 4 in the night, looking for a big RBI to surpass Edgar. Here's the pitch of the way. Swinging a ground ball up the middle. Into center field for a base hit. Julio rounding third, being waved in. The throw to the plate is not in time. Julio scores. Eugenio with an RBI single. It gives the Mariners an 8-7 lead. And for Eugenio Suarez, that is an RBI now in 10 consecutive games. And that surpasses Edgar Martinez. He had the Mariners record of 9 consecutive games with a run batted in.
There you have it. Seattle Sports 7:10 a.m. Eugenio Suarez to go ahead and knock in the 8, set that franchise record, 10 straight games with a run knocked in as they beat the Angels 9-7. Tune into an NL West battle tonight. Padres play host to the Dodgers. Coverage begins at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The 1-1. Rosario grounds it up the first baseline into the right field corner. Hayward scores. Taylor scores. Arriving at third is Rojas, and the Dodgers tack on a couple of more runs and now lead 7-3.
That's AM 570 LA Sports. Charlie Steiner. After Yu Darvish pitched 7 innings of 2-run ball, the Dodgers got to the Pods' pen to the tune of 8 runs in the 8th and 9th, beat the Padres for the 6th straight time, 10-5.
Back to the top of the order to Ronald Acuna. And he'll slice one down the right field line. That's a fair ball. He just missed Michael Harris. His helmet came off. He flies around second, heads for third. He gets the wave to the plate. Cubs hit the cutoff man. No throw. Harris slides and saves. And it's 7-0 after the RBI triple from Ronald Acuna.
That's 680 The Fan, a 7-run fourth backing Max Fried, who pitched 6 shutout frames in his return to the bump. Braves 8-0 over the Cubs and break up the Royals. They won 7 straight, beat the Phils 7-5. Bobby Witt Jr. went deep and stole a bag as well. KC rolling of late. Coming up, the Big 10 and Big 12 get bigger. Pac-12 dying off. That's next. This is ESPN Radio.
Grady. Alabama was 2 plays away from a perfect season. You write off Alabama at your own peril. I am most certainly not going to do that with you.
Can you dig it? With a Bobcat compact excavator, you can. Up to $6,000 in rebates on select models and 0% financing for 36 months.
Check us out at KC Bobcat.
And a curveball smacked into left center field.
As a sports fan, you know action. And TuneIn is here to bring you all the action. From nonstop live sports coverage from the biggest leagues.
Ovechkin with a steal. Chance here on the break-in. Kuznetsov fires. Scores!
To in-depth podcasts on what's going on with your favorite teams. And all the game-changing content in between.
Randall, step back 3.
TuneIn is the playbook for sports fans.
Wall Street Journal Radio is now streaming commercial-free on TuneIn Premium. From top-line morning briefings to afternoon deep dives on the markets, the economy, and more, invest in your day with WSJ Radio.
I'm J.R. Whalen for the Wall Street Journal.
Discover business news and analysis for the decisions that matter from sources you can trust. The Wall Street Journal, Barron's, MarketWatch, and Investors Business Daily.
50% of the S&P 500's performance.
Just upgrade to Premium to get your daily business news without the ads. Wall Street Journal Radio is now on TuneIn. From top-line morning briefings to afternoon deep dives on the markets, the economy, and more, invest in your day with WSJ Radio.
I'm J.R. Whalen for the Wall Street Journal. Many workers have high expectations for raises.
Discover business news and analysis for the decisions that matter from sources you can trust. The Wall Street Journal, Barron's, MarketWatch, and Investors Business Daily. It's all here, now streaming on TuneIn. Search Wall Street Journal Radio on TuneIn to listen.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council. To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Today's news can feel like uncharted waters. But more often than you'd think, we're not the first generation to confront what we're dealing with today.
We're just the first generation to make a podcast about it.
I'm Rachel Maddow.
I'm Isaac Davey Aronson. Each week, we'll bring you a story from history
that helps with something in the headlines today.
Rachel Maddow presents Deja News with Isaac Davey Aronson, an MSNBC podcast. Listen now on TuneIn.
Are you looking for a way to listen to your favorite audio on the go? Look no further than the TuneIn app. With TuneIn, you can stay plugged into what matters most, no matter where your day takes you. Download the TuneIn app now and experience audio like never before.
You already know that the TuneIn app lets you listen on the go. But did you know that you can listen to TuneIn in your car too? Take TuneIn on the road by staying connected with CarPlay, Android Auto, or Bluetooth. Plus, you can tap on the car icon from the home screen on your app for a simplified experience that's safer for the car. Shorten your commute with all your favorite audio on TuneIn.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn, but that isn't
This is Sports Center all night on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. Here's Jim Basquil.
And ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Save when you bundle your motorcycle, RV, and boat insurance. Visit progressive.com.
Half-hour headlines on Sports Center all night.
Again, our top stories. Big 12 continues to raid the Pac-12, adding Arizona State, and Utah as members next year. Big 10 welcoming Oregon and Washington. They join Southern Cal and UCLA, Big 10 bound. Anthony Davis signs a massive $186 million extension with the Lakers on the eve of Justin Verlander's return to the Stros. They win easily in the Bronx, and the Dodgers again show the Padres why they are the best in the NL West.
The Pac-12, as we know it, is dying. It is circling the drain.
From coast to coast, athletic directors, commissioners, and decision makers in college athletics are paying attention to this and watching and reading. And everybody's talking about what they're going to do if indeed that were to unfold and the Pac-12 were to dissolve.
We got to get rid of all the warm and fuzzies out there. This is about survival. This is about dollars that are going to fund your university.
The Big 12 adding Arizona State, and Utah as members next year. That came hours after the Big 10 welcomed Oregon and Washington. The Big 10 set to become the largest major athletic conference at 18 members, while the Big 12 balloons to 16 schools. Pete Thamel on SportsCenter.
For these three schools, it's been a fascinating chess match. Arizona, Thursday night, actually was voted into the Big 12, but the final steps of that were gummed up because of an Arizona Board of Regents meeting. Arizona State President Michael Crow, who's been there, I believe, since 2002, did not want to leave the Pac-12. He's a staunch Pac-12 guy. He propped up and supported Larry Scott, the former commissioner who led the Pac-12 down this wayward path for way too long. And he, at the Board of Regents meeting, got in the way of progress. And that was one of the seeds of doubt of whether any of this realignment was going to happen. Oregon and Washington were playing footsies with the Big Ten, obviously. But Crow's petulance in that meeting was an obstacle. Obviously, everything changed for the league when Oregon and Washington blew up the morning meeting, went a few hours later to the Big Ten, and now all of a sudden there were calls with Utah in the Big 12, and there were calls with Arizona State in the Big 12. And by late dinner time, there had been a CEO's meeting where they let them both in after they both applied.
The Athletics' Nicole Auerbach on Freddie and Fitzsimmons on the biggest winners from this realignment.
Well, I mean, I would be very tempted to just say Oregon and Washington. I mean, we've known that they wanted to go to the Big Ten for over a year now, and they finally got their opportunity. And I think that, you know, they're going to be coming in at a partial share. It's still way more money than they would have made as a member of the Pac-12. It's going to be more money than they would have made if they wanted to go to the Big 12. So they're still the big winners because they got it in the door. They got a ticket to one of the two conferences that have assured their financial futures, are going to be able to chart the course of whatever this college sports thing looks like 5, 10, 15 years from now. So they have to be considered the big winners.
USA Today, Zachary Neal on the Ducks to the Big Ten.
I think in a sense it's a really good thing for Oregon football specifically. I think, like I've said before, it sets them up going into the future to be one of the national powers and to have a seat at the table. But, you know, you look at everything you lose in the Pac-12 conference, and one of the most historic conferences in the nation, and you lose some of that tradition and those rivalries and the Rose Bowl and everything. You don't know what's going to come from that. And then also you look at this, I mean, we're treating this mostly as a football story right now, when in reality, this is not a football story. It's a college athletics story. So you have to think about the impacts of, you know, the softball team, the volleyball team, the tennis team. Students across the nation, and particularly in the Pac-12, are going to have you know, their lives completely changed because they're going to be traveling across country for their, you know, athletic activities while we're still asking them to be students as well. So there's a lot of pros and cons to this.
Then there's Heather Dinich on Canny and Carlin on the future of the college football playoff.
So the reality is what would probably have to happen is the commissioners would have to go back to the drawing board and say, do we still want to reward the 6 highest ranked conference champions? Does the Pac-12 have a conference? Does it have a conference champion? How many teams, how many schools do you need in a conference to be a Power 5? I mean, the list just goes on of legs of this thing like an octopus.
Deion Sanders took to the podium on Friday for the first time since Colorado announced its intention to rejoin the Big 12. After the Buffs finished 1-11 last season, they hired Sanders and sold out their spring game and 2 regular season home games. They've seen a 700% spike in merchandise sales. Ed Werder now has more on Colorado in tonight's SportsCenter report.
The upheaval in college football isn't something that interests first-year Colorado coach Deion Sanders, even though the Buffs are among the program's changing conferences. The priority for Sanders is changing the fortunes of the 1-11 program he inherited, not the hypocrisy of critics posing as traditionalists.
I don't care nothing about no different teams moving. We're trying to win, man. I don't care where we play.
Okay.
I don't care what conference, who we're playing against. We're trying to win. All this is about money. You know that. It's about a bag. Everybody's chasing a bag. Then you get mad at the players when they chase it. How's that? How do the grown-ups get mad at the players when they chase it when the colleges are chasing it?
Pursuing the kind of sustained success that Colorado last enjoyed under Bill McCartney in the middle 1990s, Sanders described himself as blessed, a man content with where he is and comfortable with who he is.
You think I'm going to change? No, I don't change, man. I mean, I'm consistent with who I am, what I am, how I am. I'm close to being 56 years old, looking good and feeling good, talking good, walking good, with a limp. I lost a few steps, but I'm still prime.
He's quick to dismiss those predicting hardship or even failure.
Who gets it right? Who gets it right? Who really gets it right? You guys got it right. You're in Vegas right now. You've been in Vegas right now at the window with a birthday suit on, man. Come on. Nobody gets it right. Y'all projecting what you guys, nobody knows what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like I know what's going to happen, but I don't know what's going to happen.
But he does have expectations, the same ones he had as a Super Bowl winning player with the 49ers and Cowboys.
We're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to win. I don't know how to say that. I wish I could say it in several different languages, but we're going to win.
Sanders is recovering from June surgery that removed multiple blood clots from his left leg. He entered the room where the news conference was held using a black and gold scooter. Sanders says his personal goal is to run onto the field with his players in Fort Worth when they open the Deion Sanders era against TCU on September 2nd. For SportsCenter, I'm Ed Werder, ESPN.
To the NFL, and Saints running back Alvin Kamara and Colts defensive back Chris Lyman's each suspended for 3 regular season games by the league because of their involvement in a February 2022 fight in Las Vegas. Kamara will miss the Saints' home opener against the Titans in Week 1 and away games against the Panthers and Packers.
I never want to be involved in something where someone gets hurt or severely injured or anything. Poor judgment on my end, definitely a bad decision, but I could take accountability for it, and I could say when I'm wrong. And I was completely wrong, embarrassed the Saints, embarrassed my family, my mother, embarrassed myself, embarrassed the city, and the Shield, obviously embarrassed the NFL. So, from here, I just got to make the right decisions and make the right choices.
And keep it with the Saints defensive end Cameron Jordan getting a 2-year, $27.5 million extension. It ties him to New Orleans through the 25 season. He's an 8-time Pro Bowl selection. The Saints franchise leader in career sacks, getting the largest contract on average and guarantees for any defensive player in league history.
NFL stands for not for long, for a reason. To then even have the exclusive membership of being with the team for 10 years. It's been a blessing. To turn around and 3 years later, you're sitting, heading to year 13 with the opportunity signed through year 15. What more can I say that, I'm elated just to be wanted.
How about the latest on running back Jonathan Taylor and the Colts? Here's Adam Schefter.
Both sides are at a standstill. Both sides can make valid arguments. It's a tough spot. If you're a running back in the league right now, it's not easy. And so Jonathan Taylor wants to get paid. You could see why he would want to get paid. The Colts can say, hey, running backs aren't getting paid. We don't have to do that. So, both sides can make a case in this. It's not an easy situation for them, not a situation for anybody, but they're going to have to let some emotions play out of this, calm down, and revisit talks before they can figure out a settlement, but it's a little bit sticky right now.
Let's stay with that running back theme. Saquon Barkley is at Giants camp. He came to terms on a 1-year deal. His quarterback Daniel Jones with Sal Powell on what that says about his teammate.
He's in a tough spot, with the contract stuff. I think it says a lot about him for him to be here for this team. He means a ton to us on the field, obviously, with his playmaking, and then in the locker room as a leader, just his ability to influence guys, to impact guys, and kind of bring everybody up with him.
And Tony Pollard taking over as the lead running back for the Cowboys after the offseason departure of Ezekiel Elliott. The quieter Pollard is playing on the franchise tag, $10.1 million after recovering from a broken lower left leg and ankle. In Dallas, though, it's still all about Dak and how far he can take them, Ryan Clark.
This team can definitely win a Super Bowl. I think they could be in that hunt. But it's going to come down to, does Dak Prescott outplay Brock Purdy? Does Dak Prescott make more plays in the clutch than Jalen Hurts? I believe he has the stuff, both in skill and intangible, to do it. But we haven't seen him do that in his career. And I think this year, with what they have defensively and adding Brandon Cooks to the fray at the skill player position, you're going to have what it takes to see Dak Prescott in that position. He'll just have to deliver.
Yeah, meantime, Trayvon Diggs downplayed the trash-talking incident with Prescott this week. The Dallas teammates got into it on the practice field, with Diggs saying the outburst was by no means indicative of any disrespect for his quarterback, Sam Acho, on the incident.
There's something there, but I wasn't overly concerned, basically because it is training camp. And honestly, I'm more interested in what, like we heard what Trayvon said. What did Dak say? Because that's the thing. I love the sly comments that are, I don't love them, but I noticed the sly comments that are said under the breath. We heard Trayvon loud and clear, but Dak has some other stuff to say himself. And so I think I remember being in training camp and getting fights with guys like Kyle Long, right? 6'6", 330, we're swinging, the helmets are flying, fists are flying, things are happening. And no, we weren't super tight of friends. That's training camp. That happened.
A tight end, Mercedes Lewis, agrees to sign with the Bears. If he makes the cut, it would be his 18th NFL season, which would break a tie with Jason Witten and Tony Gonzalez for the most ever played at that position. I'll run through NFL camps with 2 days focusing on the Dolphins and Seahawks.
Hey, let's go do our job, man.
NFL
NFL Nation Two-A-Days on ESPN Radio. The Seattle Seahawks.
158! I'm ESPN Seahawks reporter Brady Henderson, and the biggest storyline for Seattle is whether their restock defense can finally hit the ground running. They've gotten off to miserable starts in each of the past 3 seasons. Last year, there was no drastic turnaround like the 2 years before. The Seahawks overhauled their front seven this offseason, most notably adding Draymond Jones and bringing back Bobby Wagner in free agency. And the back end got an upgrade as well, with Seattle taking cornerback Devin Witherspoon 5th overall. It's a much more talented defense. It's got better scheme fits up front than what they had last year, but a lot of new pieces will have to mesh in camp in order to avoid another stumble out of the gates. And another big challenge, Jamal Adams and Jordan Brooks are both coming off major injuries and may not be ready by week 1.
Countdown to kickoff with NFL Nation Two-A-Days on ESPN Radio.
Hey, let's go do our job, man.
NFL Nation Two-A-Days on ESPN Radio. The Miami Dolphins.
158!
I'm ESPN Dolphins reporter Marcel Louis-Jacques, and the number one storyline I'm following this training camp is how quickly this defense can snap into shape. A below-average unit in 2022, the Dolphins made a major splash at defensive coordinator, hiring one of the greatest minds in NFL history in Vic Fangio, with a now healthy Xavier Howard and budding third-year stars in Javon Holland and Jalen Phillips. The Dolphins have the pieces to be a top 5 unit on that side of the ball. We know what Tua, Tyreek, and this offense can do, but as we saw last year, a dominant defense could be the difference between a wild card exit and a Super Bowl run in South Florida.
Countdown to kickoff with NFL Nation Two-A-Days on ESPN Radio.
Yeah, on the subject of those fins, Tua also said to be healthy, and his coach Mike McDaniel says he has a bit more variety in his game.
I don't know this to be fact, but it appears by my layman's eye, he has more pitches in his arsenal. You know, he can layer stuff and drive it just with even more command than, you know, he's already pretty adept at, considering his accuracy. So I think it just overall helps him feel prepared and execute a lot of things. Residuals are apparent and various.
Coming up, we hear from the U.S. women on their latest challenge at the World Cup and have the night's top plays all queued up. That's next. You're listening to Sports Center all night on ESPN Radio.
Wilson, coming up on Monday, we continue our NFL Two-A-Days with the Giants. I'll tell you if what we saw last year from Daniel Jones will continue this year. That and more beginning at 6 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and on ESPNU.
ESPN Radio Sports Center all night. More next.
Can you dig it? With a Bobcat compact excavator, you can. Up to $6,000 in rebates on select models and 0% financing for 36 months. Check us out at KC Bobcat.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
If you having girl problems, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems.
But sports ain't one. Sports.
Deep to left field. There it goes.
Throw it in wide open. Touchdown.
As long as you listen to Sports on TuneIn, you don't have any problems. Sports and Sports Talk is on TuneIn Radio. Search sports to listen now.
TuneIn's Poolside Station is your one-stop shop for pool party playlists. And now you can keep those good vibes going uninterrupted by going commercial-free. It's as easy as signing up for a TuneIn Premium plan. Then you'll be pumping Diplo, Purple Disco Machine, Disclosure, and more through your speakers with absolutely no ads. With TuneIn Premium, the party never stops. Just upgrade today to get started.
Not sure what to listen to next? Well, here's this week's top 3 things to listen on TuneIn. The Big 615 is your destination for new country music from emerging artists, superstars, and your favorite icons. Brought to you by the mind of Garth Brooks. The NFL preseason is here. Head to the sports page to find in-market coverage. Digitally imported is streaming on TuneIn. Enjoy all of your favorite electronic music, from house to trance, techno to dubstep, all expertly curated in high definition. Find these and more trending items on the homepage of TuneIn.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
You already know that the TuneIn app lets you listen on the go. But did you know that you can listen to TuneIn in your car too? Take TuneIn on the road by staying connected with CarPlay, Android Auto, or Bluetooth. Plus, you can tap on the car icon from the home screen on your app for a simplified experience that's safer for the car. Shorten your commute with all your favorite audio on TuneIn.
This is SportsCenter all night on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. Here's Jim Basquil.
Yeah, we're back on SportsCenter all night with the Women's World Cup. The United States getting Sweden on Sunday morning. It's the knockout stage. The two-time defending champs struggling. Heading into this round of 16 match, the U.S. has played Sweden 6 times in group stage play at the World Cup, most recently in 2019 when they won 2-0. Lynn Williams and Lindsey Arano looking forward to this win or go-home matchup.
You know, us being the U.S. national team, we're always going to have that. You guys always want to talk about us, and we're going to take that pressure. We're going to go with it, but we're going to, focus on ourselves and, look at everything internally and try to keep the noise out as much as possible, but, use it to our advantage too, because we're going to go out and we're going to fight and we're going to do everything that, we've done in the past World Cups, the past major tournaments to go win this game.
We are not panicking. We have made it to the round of 16. I think that we haven't played our best soccer yet, which is the most exciting part for us. We are a team that are going to battle, and even when we haven't played our best soccer, I think we've only had one shot on goal. Unluckily for us, it went in, but it's been one shot in 3 games. So yeah, that's the outside world, not us.
And the night's top sound includes a Dodger doing it with the glove and bat. Kevin Winter has the details.
Number 4.
Jim, all the plays from Friday come from the diamond, 2 at the plate, 2 in the field. As we go old school with some web gems, we start in Cincinnati, where the Washington Nationals were down 3-1 in the 8th inning. They rallied to send the game with the Reds to extra innings, where Lane Thomas went deep for the 2nd time in the game. The call of the Nationals Radio Network.
Swing a line drive, well hit to left field. Benson racing back, this one over his head, and it is gone into the first row of seats over the 12-foot wall and left. It's a 2-homer game for Lane Thomas and a 6-3 Nationals lead. New career high with 18 home runs. Another multi-homer game in this ballpark. A line smash over the fence for Thomas and 3 big runs on the board, starting this crowd here in Cincinnati.
Number 3.
Jim, the Texas Rangers maintained their game-and-a-half lead over Houston thanks to Adolis Garcia. Not 1, but 2 long balls of 2 different varieties. The call says the Rangers beat the Marlins on 105.3 The Fan.
Garcia has extended his hitting streak to 9 games. Exactly 1 hit in each of the 9. Here he lifts one high into the air, deep left center. Garcia going back, looking up. It is gone into the second deck. Second home run tonight for Adolis Garcia. He gives the Rangers a 4-2 lead.
Number 2.
Jim, I said we go old school. Remember back in the day when Baseball Tonight would do the Web Gem segment? Well, in the same game, we had not 1 but 2 robberies. Let's start with the Padres right fielder, Fernando Tatis, robbing Mookie Betts. The call from 97.3 The Game.
A 1 pitch hit in the air to deep right center. Fernando back into the gap on the warning track. Reaches up and makes the catch. Oh boy, we are seeing some outfield defense here tonight. Gonna hang a star for Fernando Tatis Jr., who just took away extra bases from Mookie Betts.
Number 1.
And Jim, earlier in the game, in the bottom of the first, James Outman of the Dodgers robbed Tatis of a home run. Charlie Steinem with the call, AM 570 LA Sports.
The 2-0. Fly ball center field. Outman going back at the wall. He leaps and he makes a spectacular catch and takes a 2-run home run away from Fernando Tatis. What a catch by Outman.
Tatis, a robber and also robbed by Outman, who also went deep in that game. You heard Kevin talk about the Nats beating the Reds. Well, the Brewers couldn't take advantage.
And hits this drive to right field. Brian Reynolds clears the deck and anchors down. A line drive homer off the facade of the second deck. Pirates go back-to-back. That's 13 for Reynolds. And an 8-3 Pirates lead in the 6th inning.
On Sports Radio 93.7 The Fan, as Brian Reynolds went out as part of a 3-hit game, Alfonso Rivas had 3-run home run and triple among his 3 hits. Bucks double the Brewers 8-4. Twins went out a trio of times.
2-2 game, a 1-2 count to Taylor. And the pitch, a high fly ball, right field deep. This will send McCarthy back at the track. He'll turn to the wall, and it's gone. Michael A. Taylor finds the dock in right. The Twins hit their 3rd home run of the night and have a 3-2 lead here in the 7th.
That's Treasure Island Baseball Network. Taylor, Jorge Polanco, Max Kepler all went yard 3-2 over Arizona. They stayed 2.5 up on the Guardians in the AL Central. Cleveland, 4-2 winner over the White Sox. Andres Jimenez, 2-run home run. That was your game-winning blow there. It's billed ready for war. Jake, the problem child, Paul, the former UFC title contender Nate Diaz matching up. Paul coming off his first career loss, that decision to Tommy Fury. Diaz making his professional boxing debut. For Paul, 4-0 versus MMA fighters. Could this lead to Conor McGregor?
He's the one who might go to jail. He's in trouble. He's dealing with a lot of legal issues, doing a lot of crazy things, and his career has gone off track. Right now, I really wouldn't even be interested in fighting him. I want to fight people who are taking the sport seriously and are going to challenge me. Right now, if I were to fight him, he would probably be hungover the day of the fight, so it wouldn't even be that. That'd be easy work. So it all just depends, but I have my eyes on names like Canelo, bigger names than Conor McGregor, and I want to continue to challenge myself and face professional boxers.
One thing at a time. Russell Henley, a one-shot lead at the Wyndham Championship, cap signing Tom Wilson to a 7-year extension. Coming up, conference realignment shakes up the sports from growing and dwindling conferences. That's next. This is SportsCenter All Night on ESPN Radio.
Hey, it's Amber Wilson. Coming up on Monday, I'll tell you how close we are to 2 super conferences and why fans should care. That and more, beginning 6 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and on ESPNU.
The top headlines are next on SportsCenter All Night.
Can you dig it? With a Bobcat compact excavator, you can. Up to $6,000 in rebates on select models and 0% financing for 36 months.
Check us out at KC Bobcat.
All the hits.
Your country music playlist.
More music, more fun.
Only the classic hits.
Radio has the power to transport you around the world. And now we've got a new way to discover new stations. Say hello to TuneIn Explorer, our map-based view that shows you where your favorite stations and podcasts broadcast from local faves to far-flung gems. It's the new way to blaze your own trail in listening. Ready to set out? Just click on the radio tab to plot your own course.
If you're a country fan, then you love the classics. TuneIn's Vintage Country Station brings you the best tracks from country's past. And with TuneIn Premium, you can go commercial-free to keep the songs coming. That means you'll be listening to Hank Williams, Willie Nelson, Patsy Cline, after midnight, and the rest of your favorites without commercials. It's the greatest songs in country music history, nonstop, every day. Just upgrade to TuneIn Premium today to get started.
When it comes to breaking news, we're your window to the world.
When China sees the Navy, for example,
we're very happy to see some breathing room for American health.
We've got you covered with CNN, Fox News Radio, MSNBC, and more. When information is power, choose your source wisely. We've got it all here on TuneIn.
All they want are the tools to defend themselves. They've already shown.
Time and time again, our focus was to seek the truth and to make sure that there's accountability.
Multiple shots.
Search news to listen.
It's time for the top sports events of the week.
Deep out to left again.
We have lots of good MLB matchups this week. The Astros head to the Bronx to take on the Yankees, while the Braves head to Chicago to take on the Cubs. The Dodgers head south to take on the Padres. The NASCAR and IndyCar series are streaming live this Sunday with the Firekeepers Casino 400 for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix.
As he comes out of turn number 4.
Hear these events and more on TuneIn.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
You already know that the TuneIn app lets you listen on the go. But did you know that you can listen to TuneIn in your car too? Take TuneIn on the road by staying connected with CarPlay, Android Auto, or Bluetooth. Plus, you can tap on the car icon from the home screen on your app for a simplified experience that's safer for the car. Shorten your commute with all your favorite audio on TuneIn.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Now on Sports Center all night. Conference realignment continues to shake up the college football landscape.
It's truly mind-blowing. There's a lot of reaction throughout college athletics about what's going to happen next.
The Astros and Yankees square off in a rematch of last year's ALCS.
2-1. And that's hit in the air to right and fairly deep and sends back Connor Falefa at the wall looking up. See you later!
Anthony Davis signs an extension to remain in LA.
They have done everything to try to put him in position to be successful. Now it's on AD to deliver.
Plus all the latest storylines from NFL training camps.
I never want to be involved in something where someone gets hurt or severely injured or anything. Poor judgment on my end. Definitely a bad decision.
This is Sports Center all night.
Violations. Okay. Sure, we weren't asking for a shot clock violation. I don't think you're going to get it in Super Bowl.
Oh, hits it! Big shot for more.
Here's Jim Basquill.
And the Big 10 and Big 12 grow, as does Anthony Davis's bank account. Welcome to Sports Center all night on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Plenty ahead, but we lead it off with the changing landscape in college football. The
Pac-12, as we know it, is dying. It is circling the drain.
From coast to coast, athletic directors, commissioners, and decision makers in college athletics are talking about what they're going to do if indeed the Pac-12 were to dissolve.
I should say college sports, right? The Big 12 is adding Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah as members next year. The latest blow to the Pac-12 came just hours after the Big 10 welcomed Oregon and Washington. Keep in mind, Southern Cal and UCLA already leaving for the Big Ten next year. With Oregon and Washington, that Big Ten has expanded 4 times since 2010 after adding no schools in the previous 21 years, set to become the largest major athletic conference with 18 members. The additions of the Arizona schools in Utah giving the Big 12 16 schools from Florida to Arizona. Heather Dinich with a reaction.
It's truly mind-blowing. There's a lot of reaction throughout college athletics about what's going to happen next in terms of the fallout, assuming this all happens the way it's been reported. This morning, there was a sense of optimism heading into the Pac-12 president's meeting where Commissioner George Kliavkoff presented the grant of rights.
Yeah, Oregon and Washington will join the Big Ten beginning in the 24-25 season. Pete Thamel on Oregon squeezing the Big Ten for more money and getting there with Washington.
Oregon played hardball. Both of those schools are only going to get about a half share of what the Big Ten pays out, which is a nebulous figure that I'm going to roughly say is nearly $70 million for the other 16 schools, and will be in the 30s in an escalating scale for Oregon and Washington. And there was some thought on the Oregon campus that, quite frankly, they were lowballed, and so they pushed the negotiation to the very end. And in a way, they're sticking around and staying interested in Pac-12 business, sort of intensified and fueled some of those hopes that existed early Friday morning. But once that meeting didn't end with a grant of rights being signed, it never really got off the ground. It was fairly clear that barring some late snag, Oregon and Washington were going to end up in the Big Ten by the end of the day. And the Ducks and the Huskies, 2 teams who played in the college football playoff in the last decade, are now Big Ten members.
Yeah, USA Today Ducks reporter Zachary Neal on Freddie and Fitzsimmons on money, the motivating factor for this Oregon move.
If Oregon did decide to stay in the Pac-12, it kind of made sense if you take the revenue aside, because, you know, who would you rather play? Would you rather play Oregon State, Washington State, Utah, and Cal to get to a Pac-12 championship in the college football playoff? Or would you rather play Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, Iowa? I mean, that's a pretty easy answer, but, you know, the old saying, you have to be the best, you've got to beat the best. So I respect that Oregon's taking on this challenge. Obviously, it's much easier to do when you get a nice revenue boost and the security that comes with it. But things are definitely going to be a little bit more challenging for the Ducks going forward to get to the college football playoff.
How about the subject of the Big Ten poaching 2 more from the Pac-12? Harry Douglas loves the aggression.
The overall and bigger picture, when you're going to have USC and UCLA come in 2024, and now you're formally having this invitation for the Washington Huskies and also Oregon. And when you look at Oregon and the brand that they are with Nike and Field Night, you look at the Washington Huskies, and I'll say over the last 10 years, the players that they're putting in the National Football League left and right, it is a no-brainer, in my opinion, when it comes to the Big Ten. I just love the fact that they are proactive in doing so and not sitting back and waiting and getting lost in the shuffle.
Now, regarding the timing, Adam Rittenberg on the Big Ten moving fast, perhaps too fast.
There's a lot of balls in the air, but, you know, certainly the Big Ten is looked at as a safer landing spot for Oregon and Washington. I would share this, though. There are some of those in the you know, higher corners of the Big Ten, schools that certainly you know, pop out a little bit, that are concerned, I've been told, about the idea of adding Oregon and Washington so fast. I've heard words like rushed and reluctant, you know, when speaking to some sources around the league today.
So what about the Pac-12's future? It's done, right? They're down to 4 schools, as well as the future of the ACC, which could be the next Pac-12. Florida State already looking at its options. Might Clemson follow? Heather Dinich on if that Atlantic Coast Conference should be concerned.
I think everybody has reason to worry right now because there's just so much uncertainty and mistrust. The mistrust is so pervasive. And given the Florida State president's recent comments, which weren't necessarily new, but were certainly strong and assertive and bold and threatening and saying, hey, if you guys don't find a way to give us more money, we're going to leave. Yes, that all creates, that's uncomfortable for everyone. But there's also a reality to the ACC that should give them some comfort, and that's their grant of rights and their exit fee. I mean, that is a very real legal web that any school that wants to leave has to untangle itself for it.
And that's what FSU faces, by the way. Reese Davis on the Noles' future in that Atlantic Coast Conference.
My perception of it is if Florida State had some place to go for sure and it was a financially viable option and they had it all locked in, they'd be being a whole lot quieter right now. And, maybe they're letting people know that they are open for business, but everybody knows that anyway. So I've been a little perplexed about why they've been so vocal about it, unless they feel like bringing attention to this can force the ACC either to, finding some type of escape hatch, or more likely they can force the ACC, into redistributing the revenue in a way that's more liking to Florida State and some of the other people in that conference who are less than pleased, who aren't being quite so vocal about it.
Yeah, Chris Carlin, by the way, says, forget Florida State. Clemson is the crown jewel get from the ACC.
I really feel like we've got a chance for Clemson to be the absolute linchpin for all of this. Think about Clemson for a moment and what they have done in college football over the last 10 to 12 years, the powerhouse that they have become. How attractive do you think Clemson is to the Big Ten, to the Big 12, and certainly the SEC? If you're Clemson, does going to the SEC really make great sense? You want to be at the top of your league year in and year out. And I'm not saying keep it easy, but what is their best route to that? It is to keep the ACC together.
Yes, good point. Pablo Torre, Tony Kornheiser on PTI, and if this conference expansion is good for college football.
All right, Pablo, is conference expansion good or bad for college football?
It feels bad, Tony, and I'll emphasize the word feels here because I get that the economics of this are saying the incentives are towards the super conferences that we've been bracing for quite a while. But it feels bad to me because the thing that distinguishes college football as a product from the NFL, a superior football product, is the geographic tradition, are the idiosyncrasies, are the cultures that brew around locales that seem to be grouped by something other than a desire to make money. For that reason, when you're eroding identity, I just feel like you're creating a more fungible part here that can be interchanged to its detriment with the NFL perhaps at the end of this rainbow.
Yeah, if you want to go back, you can go back to BC as agent zero in this whole thing. Because they're the first team, I think, that moved out of a conference with reasonable geographic boundaries and tightness and decided we're out of here. We're not going to be in the Big East anymore. We're going to go to the ACC. And that led to what I think could be accurately described as chaos. But I am not one of those people who is doing hand-wringing about this. I'm really not. Because, I think the college football product is second only to the NFL in viewership in the country.
You could say that. That's for certain. You're listening to SportsCenter all night on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I'm Jim Basquil. Anthony Davis and the Lakers have agreed to a 3-year, $186 million contract extension. Deal comes at an average value of $62 million per season. That extension becoming the richest annual agreement in league history. It ties him to the franchise through the 28 campaign for a total of $270 million. He had 2 years and $84 million left on his current contract, became eligible to sign the 3-year extension on Friday, and they quickly got it done. Woj on what this means for LBJ.
What this means for LeBron James is, as he navigates his future, and perhaps he'll do, as if he returns on another Laker deal, perhaps it's a shorter contract, but he knows he has Anthony Davis locked in. This is what Anthony Davis and LeBron James and the Lakers imagined when they made that 2019 trade, gave up a great deal for Davis,